Fear of disappointment can become a vision in itself. When you fear disappointment and you start visualizing what could go wrong, that becomes your vision. You know, the thing is here's the kind of backhanded side of vision. When you decide not to have it, you end up having it just as much as if you decided to have it. This is Way of the Artist with Brandon Colby Cook and Evan Schulte.
Identifying your blocks and demystifying your struggles
so that you can claim your own path
and make your life a work of art.
Hey, we got a vision for this episode, Evan. We do. It's serious.
I felt like I almost sensed that coming.
Well, it is the law of vision. That's what we're into. And this is another episode of Way of the Artist. Get ready. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about some stuff. So on this one, we're talking about vision, which is as you'll probably find out, a very linked law to just about everything in a lot of ways, because it's very foundational. It's a lot about purpose. It's a lot about your why and your meaning and your thoughts and how you're seeing your world and what you're experiencing as you're going for all this stuff. It's very deeply linked into your internal world of your artistry, and I think quite overlooked, because I think we live in quite a practical society where we're always like, how do I do this? How do I make this happen?
Yeah, which is an important step. It's an important thing for us to have a grasp of because, you know, vision is nothing other than just an idea until it's put into action, which is kind of how it's also associated with the law of beginning, which we talked on the last one about. You know, it's like beginning kind of is the thing that takes the vision and starts to manifest it into our actual world.
Yes.
But vision is an equally important part of the equation of the kinds of artists that we want to be, the kinds of creative people that we want to be, but also the kinds of work that we want to create as well. Vision applies to both of these things. It's universal in that way.
Totally. Also, I think like with vision, it's like sometimes people look down on it because it's like, you know, I have a dream or you're a dreamer. And it's like, you know, this idea that people who have dreams or visions don't actually go and do them. But the thing is that people do actually go out and do their dreams and visions. Some people have dreams and visions where they never do anything. Yeah. And they give visions and dreams a bad name because they don't ever take action on them. But it doesn't mean that having a vision or a dream isn't necessary. In fact, I think it's absolutely critical if you're going to take action at all.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, because it's like, what kind of action do you even take?
Yeah.
You know, otherwise it's just like we're just turning our wheels around, and everything begins with vision. That's where everything starts in leading a creative life in all senses of that expression. Without vision, we have no direction. Without vision, we have no sense of purpose. Without vision, we don't have any kind of growth or evolution either. Because for me, vision implies a sense of the unknown. Vision implies a sense of something I haven't done yet or hasn't been done yet. Stepping into something that's maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but fueled by excitement and possibility. Yeah. You know, I'd say a big part of vision too, at least for me in my experience, has been imagination is a huge part of the whole process.
Oh, of course. And how much you allow yourself to imagine. You know, how much do you allow yourself to take images and put them through a process of, like, you know, going and playing around and seeing what could happen, you know, and experiencing those images. You know, like those images, those imaginations, like what would it be like, and kind of letting yourself kind of walk through that experience. And I found that, like, with imagination, I mean, I think personally, I think it's our most incredible tool as human beings is to have imagination, and yet we don't use it because we don't really realize the power that it has. Because it just seems like when you think about imagination, I think a lot of people just go, "Oh, I'm just kind of daydreaming." I'm wandering off into space, doing nothing, getting nothing done. And it's like, well, you might be getting a tremendous amount done because you might be actually getting your mind clear and focusing on what actually matters here. Mm-hmm. But, this is the thing, and we'll get into this with the law of action and the law of momentum and things like that, right? But the thing is that with imagination, it helps you know what action to take. It helps you to actually garner momentum in a certain direction. And I think with imagination, too, is like sometimes, you use your imagination not to necessarily make that image happen exactly as you see it in your head, but you use the image to link you into the feeling that is your imagination, because ultimately we're feeling beings. And so vision and imagination, what they're really trying to do is use imagery to get you to feel. And really what you're after is the feeling. You're not actually after the images as much as you might think. And I think that's where people get confused.
No, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And what you're touching on, I think, is an important part of. So, like, let's get into this. Let's just take it here. The thing is, like, with vision. So, I think we've kind of established at this point, it's like it is important to have a vision. I think it is important to have a vision at all times in your life. But that vision, I'd also like to say, is something that I believe is something that is ever growing and ever evolving, and it shifts. Sometimes vision has a way of saying like, oh, okay, yes, this is the place I'm going. And again, there's an emotional attachment I usually have to that vision. It's something that is inspiring to me. It is something that pushes me on to do something I haven't done before, and it's powerful enough to push me past whatever resistance and fear that I have. This is the kind of vision that I'm talking about and trying to communicate that we need to get ourselves grounded into, to really feel that, to really see it, to really get a sense of that feeling in our bodies.
Yes.
That is how powerful our visions need to be developed.
Right.
And that will push us to whatever is next. Because as I've also discovered is that sometimes I'm really motivated by a vision that I have, and I'm heading down this path, and then I get to this point and I go, oh, it's not quite that, is it? And then it starts to get more and more specific. It starts to get more and more clear, because sometimes there's a lot of other attachments and associations I've brought into that initial vision, that initial image. And as I start down the path to it, it starts to kind of morph in front of my eyes. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a giving up. That's not, sometimes it's holding on to a certain preconceived notion that we had that can become such a limiting and painful factor, because we don't know how things are going to unfold on the path towards that vision. Mm-hmm. But we can adapt to it, and usually it's through the adapting to it and the embracing of how that's changing that we actually start to get more in alignment with what we actually really want and what gives us our actual sense of purpose. But that initial vision is so crucial to get us started, to get us moving towards it. It really is kind of like that, that sense of perspective of when we're far away from something, we just kind of see this outline of it, maybe a few shapes, maybe a few colors, and then we say, yeah, I'm going that way. I'm going that direction. I want to see that. I want to go and see that, and I want to go and experience that. And as we start to move closer and closer and closer to it, we start to discover all of these different things along the way, and it starts to form in front of us, and it's not always exactly what we thought it was. Mm-hmm. But it got us moving there anyhow.
Right.
Yeah.
I find that, some of the, I really believe that human beings are emotionally motivated, and everything is energy and motion. It's all emotion. So if you have a vision, the key thing is that you feel the vision. So it's like one thing to have an idea in your head and have an image, but it's your ability to connect and feel that connection to it from a feeling place in your own body. And then from there, that's what's actually going to give you the momentum, the drive, the need to kind of go towards it. I think feeling is the real ultimate kind of guide, because then that's the thing with the human body is like we have these incredible minds, but the thing is this body too has something. It creates like this passion and this fire, and it creates all sorts of stuff: angst, anger, sadness.
Our emotions are one of our most powerful feedback systems.
Yes,
for us to listen to. That's the problem, is we always try and stuff them and control them when they're really just trying to communicate something to us. It's and to maybe in context to this conversation and this subject, the feelings of joy and lightness and elation and those types of things are indications of this is like we're on the right path. Mm-hmm. We're on the right direction. When we start to have the feelings of pain and anger and sorrow, these types of things, these are emotions saying like, hey, correct course. This isn't quite right. Mm-hmm. This isn't quite right. Make a shift here or there. It's not giving up. It's not like saying, no, this is done. Or maybe it's saying that this is done. But usually it's more so a case of, it's done, but it's just a different direction. Yeah. So in a way you could even argue that it's like it's not really ever done. It's just deflection. Pivot is something that you always say. It's like just pivot.
Well, I think a lot of people think vision is somewhere you get. They don't realize it's something you become. And I think that's the myth of our current society is like, oh, when I win the Oscar, I will have reached my vision. It's like, no, you will become the person that can win an Oscar. You will become the Oscar winner. The fact that they put a piece of metal in your hand is irrelevant when you get there. And that's the thing that a person who gets caught in the end result destination idea forgets, and they get so focused on a little piece of metal in the hand that they forget that the person who's fucking holding it is why that thing exists, is why that thing matters. And so the thing is like with vision, it's good to have that destination. It's good to have this idea of where you want to go and what you think your life will be like when you get there. But like the real reward is who you become through it. And I think it's that's where we get knocked off course, because we start getting too caught up in the result. We start getting too caught up in all of this stuff. And the other thing I want to say about that, because you were pointing out feeling, is just, there's these feeling feedback loops we're getting. We're constantly going like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Okay, maybe go over here. And I think the other thing about vision, at least in my experience, I can say, is that sometimes you will do what doesn't feel good because it actually feels good. And the reason why I say that is because when you have an ideal or when you have a principle or something that matters so much and it feels so good that matters to you, the temporary pain you're going through, it becomes irrelevant. I used to do this when I was like running in soccer, or, we'd have these hard days. It'd be like, I don't care about this temporary pain. Like I'll run until I'll fall over, because I really believe these coaches, I believe what we're doing is that when we get to that moment where we're the most fit team, and we were, that whatever pain we're going through right now is irrelevant. And that is where vision transcends our human like temporary need. And when we don't have vision, that's why I think we sit on the couch and we eat Cheetos and we watch TV because we're like, I just want to feel good right now. But like vision makes you go, I don't care about feeling good right now. I'm willing to actually feel good through feeling not good right now.
Right. And Yeah, what you're getting into is kind of like a tricky thing, because I mean, I don't want to knock sitting on the couch and eating Cheetos or anything like that, because that has its place too.
Sure.
But I understand what you're saying. Like, it's, for me, it's being in a place where for me it's more joyful to be pushing into this vision that I have, this thing that I'm trying to create that makes me uncomfortable because I'm so stoked about it. And when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV and putting it off or something, you know, if I'm procrastinating, that becomes painful.
Yes.
That becomes just like a slow bleeding kind of death where I'm just like, ugh.
Don't be dramatic or anything.
And now, yeah, but it's like, that's actually not too far away from the feeling that I get when I don't have that excited vision that I'm attached to, you know. And I want to bring this up again because and these questions that we brought up in episode 1, which was finding your path. And these questions are, what do I really want, and what is my sense of purpose in the world? These are two, like, and again, I can't understate the importance of these questions for us to really, as artists, I mean, I think everybody needs to be asking themselves these questions. You're an artist, oh my God. Like, you're an artist, you're a trailblazer. Mm-hmm. You're a person who is holding up a mirror to ourselves and to society. We're taking a deep look, examination. We're paving ways. And then how this incorporates then with vision. Like, our vision is also kind of a vision to also share. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Like, it's always meant to share. It's always meant to communicate. So it's, what is the vision that we are sharing with people? What are we trying to communicate with that vision? So vision has so many implications, maybe somewhat beyond what the everyday person brings to the table.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's another element to which vision impacts us as artists in our lives.
Well, you know, I think like the average person, the everyday person, it's not that they don't have vision or imagination. It's totally there. It's a matter of like how we were trained and educated, you know, and I'm going to get into it, Evan, because that's what I get into. But and listen, I believe in jobs. I honestly, not Steve Jobs, jobs, like in general, like working. I think it's a good thing.
But Steve Jobs was a visionary.
Yeah, he was a visionary, and he's different than Jobs. So we'll get into that too, probably. But listen, so you got your education system, which taught you how to have a job, to make money, to, you know, put food on the table, have a roof over your head, and basically to do some type of service to keep our economy and our social system working. It's a great, wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. The thing is that I've always looked at it as a temporary means to an ultimate greater vision. And I think the problem is that it's presented to us as though it is the ultimate vision for us. And, you know, to be honest and to be blunt, some people got to dig ditches. That's just the reality of the world we live in. Somebody's got to do it. So if you don't want to have a vision, go dig a ditch. Fine. That's what you want to do. You dig a ditch and love digging a ditch. But don't knock how your life could be like something else if you're not willing to have vision. Vision allows you to not be a ditch digger. It allows you to look around and get some perspective and see what's possible. Now, I'm going to share something because I shared this with you before and I feel it's really important. Mm-hmm. And it's a big thing that happened for me recently, which is I went through my lifeline. You know, I went through my history. It's actually been a long process, but I've been going through this, and I had a realization the other day, and I was like, you know, my last name is Cook. Okay, we come from this part of my family. The Cook line comes from England, right? And we were the Cooks. That's what we did. We were a peasant, essentially, family that cooked. That's what we did, and that's how we were known. You know, the Smiths, my friend actually, Scott Smith, was a blacksmith. Yeah. That's where Smith came from. So we all had a lot in life. Somewhere along the line in my genealogy somewhere, we have Captain Cook. Captain Cook came from a cook family, from cooks, and decided, I am willing to go venture out into the world. I'm going to captain a ship with a bunch of these other peasants and people. I'm going to convince the kings and queens of my time to give me enough money to get this cook to captain a ship across the fucking ocean to go find some new land for us all. And he was willing to risk his life to go do that. But he didn't accept his lot in life. He had a vision that if he took a ship and went out into the wild ocean, which people thought was flat and you'd fall off the end of it, that he could find something that would be whatever. And the thing is I look at that and I go, that's interesting, because we all have our lot in life. Am I a cook because I'm going to just cook food for everybody and that's my lot in life for the rest of my life? Or am I going to be the pioneer that's going to go and sail out into the unknown? And when I look at vision and I look at Captain Cook and I look at this great-great-great-grandfather of ours, and I look at him and I say, well, that was a guy who decided to be a visionary. He must have seemed crazy to everybody. But he went and did it. And so vision is kind of this thing, is like, you mentioned the unknown. You go into these wild open seas. You don't know what you're going to find. By the way, he found the Hawaiian Islands. Pretty fucking incredible. Yeah. If you have never been, it's like one of my favorite islands, favorite places in the world. It's incredible. Not just because he found it, but it actually is an incredible little place. And the thing is that's part of what vision is. You go out there, you don't know what you're going to find, but you're going to find something. And I think the thing is that it's part of becoming the person that's willing to go explore. And here's the other thing. Not every story ended that way. Some stories ended with their whole team dying in the middle of the ocean, some storm, something whatever. And the thing is with vision is I think that you don't worry so much about whether you're going to be remembered as this great thing at the end of the day. And that's a wonderful thing that we have in our history. Mm-hmm. And in some ways we're lucky. Yeah. We're lucky to have...
Because others paved that way. And we don't have to do quite that.
But... when we look at visionaries, sometimes we only recognize the ones who actually achieved a goal. It doesn't mean that he's the only visionary that ever was successful. Many other people went out there and they were willing to captain ships to go out there. And I think that's an incredible thing. And I think when I think of vision, that inspires me. I go, I don't have to accept my lot in life. I could go out and I could risk. I could try.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this is an important... side of this thing, because I think our dreams and our vision are linked to each other. You could perhaps argue that they're kind of synonymous and kind of the same thing, but there might be a subtle distinction here. Regardless, there's a thing that can happen, especially as artists, because there's this idea, there's kind of this association. It's like you're an artist, you're a dreamer. Right. And that can even have being labeled a dreamer has its own sort of stigma to it out there in society. And it's just basically it's saying, it's just well, you're full of shit. You're not in reality. You are not, you're not with the rest of us kind of thing. And so if you're listening to this, depending on what space you are in your life, you could be in a place where you're so super connected to your dreams and your vision, but you might be at a point in your life, and I've been through this, where as an artist and where I had my vision, and part of it was just hanging on to a vision that was dead, but it can become a thing where it becomes, you think you're not safe to have a vision. You're not safe to have a dream. There's a fear of being let down, of you start to buy into that shit that people, that the doubters and the haters and the people who are blocked themselves as creatives. You start to buy into their story. And if you're in that place, or if you're not in that place, I find that that life has a way of kind of sometimes testing us. in that way, where we might end up in a place where we just go, oh my God, what's happening here? And do not ever let go of having your visions, or having your dreams. Maybe they shift. Usually if it reaches a painful point, it's just saying like, okay, well, what is it that it's that reevaluation. Okay, well, what is it that I do really want? Mm-hmm. What is it that really does give me a sense of meaning and purpose? Mm-hmm. And we reevaluate and we discover something new. But don't give up on dreaming, because I realized at a point in my life that I had not allowed myself to dream anymore, and it is like a horrible, painful limbo that's just not worth going down. Sometimes life throws a curveball at us, as the expression goes, and we just don't know how to handle it. But all I can say is just like, don't stop being a visionary. Mm-hmm. Keep going. Just keep redefining that vision, redefine that dream. Keep your imagination active, because that is life. That is your lifeblood. Yeah.
I would say, even just to further your point, because I can relate to what you're saying. Like, I went through massive disappointment, at one point in my life, and more than one, but one that nearly devastated me, knocked me right on my ass. And I was walking around, and all my visions and all my dreams just seemed it was a very bleak time. And it was a time of maybe I was foolish to think that any of this stuff is possible. Maybe I'm wrong, Mm-hmm. And in some ways there's good things in that, you get some humility, you kind of but I'm glad I came out of it, because I was without purpose. And what I found was the fear of disappointment can become a vision in itself. When you fear disappointment and you start visualizing what could go wrong, that becomes your vision. The thing is here's the kind of backhanded side of vision. When you decide not to have it, you end up having it just as much as if you decided to have it. You actually just get the opposite. You get, and I'm going to relate this back to my family line again. You decide, well, we've always been cooks. It's always worked as cooks. We've always been able to make $1 cooking food. Let's continue to cook food. We know that's safe. Because when we've tried anything else, it didn't work out. So, disappointed, so we are cooks, right? The other thing is someone crazy, as whoever son that was, I don't know, went up and said, I'm going to go and do this thing, must have looked insane, because to everyone else's disappointment vision, he had a belief that something else was possible. And I said this in the law beginning. The first step is the loneliest step, because you got to step away from your whole family. Your whole family, this is the thing that we don't realize. Our entire family lines have been built on safety and security and consistency. That's how we exist as human beings. Mm-hmm. So artists step outside of what is our normal line, our genealogy, our family lineage.
And it steps outside of the comfort.
Yes. Yeah. And so in some ways, if your family doesn't believe in you or your family's doubting you, you got to understand that we've all built safety for our loved ones. We've all learned ways to support each other and protect each other. When you're an artist, you're kind of balking that. You're knocking that in the face a little bit and saying, I'm going to risk. I'm going to take some dangerous steps here. And the rest of the family, your friends, everybody's going to go whoa, partly I don't want to let you get hurt, and the other part of it is this threatens my world.
And to largely, I want to redefine a little bit what's actually going on there.
Okay.
For this isn't me saying that you're wrong, Brandon. This is me I just want to put a spin on if you find yourself or have found yourself in a situation like that, which is that really truly you might think that they don't support you, and that's not the case. It's not that they don't support you. It's their fear. they're putting onto you, and that fear's coming out of a place of love. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit misguided.
Right.
It's a lot bit misguided, because they just want you to be, happy. They want you to be safe. They don't want you to go through any pain, and they're afraid of you going through pain because they don't see what you see. Mm-hmm. They don't quite understand it.
You said it exactly. They don't see what you see. That's what vision is.
That's exactly what it is. and your vision is your vision. It's nobody else's. And that's why it is something that requires a bit of a step out from safety, because you're stepping out into something that either nobody's done or something that you've never done before, and it has its own rewards and it has its own risks that go with that. But anyhow, all I really wanted to say about that was just, if you're in that situation, it's really just recognize that where these people are coming from is actually a loving place. Mm-hmm.
You said something to me, and you've said this to me, I don't know how many times, but we're always making decisions out of fear or love.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you break down fear enough, it in some ways comes back down to love, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to family and it comes to fear, in my experience, fear is really just love. I'm scared you're going to die, and I don't want you to die. I don't want you to hurt, right? That's the fear is just vibrating above the level of love. It's actually, I think, like a lot of the time, like love takes you removing that layer of fear so that you can just feel the love. So you can feel like, and I think we're kind of coming into a time where some parents and some people are kind of going, yeah, like I'm going to encourage you to do what you love. And, at the same time, I'm not going to let my fears kind of infect necessarily what you see. But the thing is like, we all need a healthy dose of fear. Let's be honest. You don't blame your family or your friends or the rest of society. Don't make them wrong. They're giving you a healthy dose of fear. Here's the thing. My great-great-great-grandfather, I don't know how many greats it is actually, but went out into the open sea with a bunch of other people, and they decided we're going to go find something. They could have all died, and many people did. You need a healthy dose of fear. You need to realize that you're going, like, I don't know if you've been in the open water. It's insane. It's like a little crazy, especially when you're in a little boat, and especially when you're probably in an old rickety kind of like wooden boat built back then. So the thing is like having a healthy dose of fear is good. Not that it limits you, but that it keeps things in perspective. That you kind of realize, like, I'm not invincible. There are dangers out there in the world, and as much as I want to go gung-ho towards my vision and my dream, that there are consequences. And you know what? I'm just going to fill this in. Last one point is that I've lived the life as an artist, and I've had some incredible moments, and I bet there will be many incredible moments to come. But here's the thing. I have had my power shut off at my place. I have been unable to pay rent at the end of the month, and I have had a period where I basically could barely afford food and I didn't know what I was going to do. I've had those moments. I've lived through them. I'm through them. I've come out the other side. I am who I am today. I feel like I'm better for it, but I was willing to stay the course in spite of those moments. And that's in some ways what vision does for you, because it makes you go, yeah, fucking power's shut off, but that's okay. I'm doing what I love, because my vision and my values were always like, I want to have a life of meaning more than I want to, right? And so I think where we're kind of leading to, and I don't know if you agree, but like, vision is kind of like you being honest about what really matters to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What does your life mean? Because like we're all ending out like dead, right? So it's not like it's a one-way course. So like we might as well make something out of this, right? And I think some of us we get enough of that vigor inside of us where we go, fuck, like I'm gonna try some stuff, because like I just realized that this might not work out,
Yeah, and I always argue that it's like it's a far better way to live in that way than to just live a life of safety.
Yeah.
Which is like a slow death. It's an early death. I've heard it sort of characterized as by different, writers and philosophers through the years. It's like that's an early death because you've already just kind of resigned. You've kind of gone numb. You're closed off. From the many and extraordinary experiences and possibilities of the world. And vision is just about opening us up to possibility. And yes, there is a cost of entry. Yes. And it means getting uncomfortable. It means, getting hit with some unexpected things, and a lot of what we will end up getting into with our conversations is like, okay, so how do we roll with those unexpected things? How do we actually make the most of those unexpected things, transmute those experiences into just like the stuff of our myth, the stuff of our legend of our lives? Because whether you're aware of it or not, it's what you're doing right now. You are writing the myth and legend of your life right now. And so where do you want to take it?
Yeah.
And that's what vision's really all about. Where do you want to take it? What possibilities are you open to in your life and in your work? What are you willing to push into?
I love what you put out there, because that's a wonderful way to interpret what this is. And I think through that, people can start to check in with, how do you feel right now? When you feel that thing inside of you, right? When you feel that's your vision right there. That's what it is. And you go, oh, I really want to do this thing. I really follow that. Like, run down that little rabbit tail or that rabbit hole or whatever it is, go down there and figure out what that is. Because that feeling, that little bit of fucking spark right there, you could ignite that shit. You could make that thing light right up. And all of a sudden you might tap into something that you suppressed as like a little kid or some point in your life, when something maybe happened, and you let that thing kind of just sit on a back shelf, and it's there. And I like the way that you've been handling things. It's been interesting, watching you go through your process of like slowly removing yourself from your job so you can do more of what you want. And at first you took a couple days off. Now you're taking a couple more days off. You know what I mean? And you get to the point where you're not just going like cold turkey, I'm doing this. You don't have to do it that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's cool the way that you're a great model for someone who's been working a job that wants to, but also maintaining an artist career, but wants to go all the way. You're literally demonstrating, at least for me, how that's actually done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't think for everybody, you just fucking go, okay, I'm fucking quitting everything. You know what I mean?
For some people,
it
for
might
sure.
Work.
And I think for some people it's probably really necessary. And I think for anybody living their creative life, living their life of purpose and passion, eventually it requires that you do fully step into it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be as horribly painful. It doesn't have to be a horribly painful process to do it, right? And a lot of times these things can guide us. There was something that I want to add in here about. It was to touch back onto the emotional side of things, because you were talking a little bit about that emotion, the feeling of vision, and when we've had it and we haven't done anything about it, that emotionally emerges as like a deep pain, because the vision is a deep calling of sorts. It's a deep calling, and when we shut it down, it becomes a deep pain. But that deep pain can be transmuted into an extraordinary joy and excitement when we decide to do something about it. When we finally go, screw this shit. It's that moment that you've been, at your job, you're sitting at your desk, or you're standing at a table with like some people who are just treating you like shit, taking their order, and you just go, what the hell am I doing? What the hell am I doing? This is not my life.
Yeah.
This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. What the hell is going on? And that's when you dig back into that well of that thing that's always been there. It's been like, what if we did this?
Yeah.
What if we did this? What if we did this? And you finally give it some attention. You go, okay, what if we did this? And then we start to bring life to that. Mm-hmm. And we really decide to do that. And then that deep pain, which you've probably been sitting on for however long you've been in that job, that thing just emerges and gives us such a sense of meaning. It doesn't mean that it's without fear. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that suddenly our egos don't go off being like, whoa, what are we doing here? Mm-hmm. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Hold on. Like, but it's that fear, like I said, it's a good thing. And as John Mayer says, fear is a friend that's misunderstood. It is coming from a place of love. It is trying to protect us. It is, but it's insane. It doesn't know actually how to do that. And life is kind of this continually unfolding of like, okay, I'm going to push into that fear until I'm past it. It's like, okay, I don't fear that anymore. And then it's like, okay, but, and then there's the next one. We push through that, and we just keep pushing in through it until we start to realize that these fears are it's almost like a checks and balances in some ways, and our fears can also help guide us into our purpose and guide us into the thing that we really want to do. Mm-hmm. It provides some feedback for us in our lives and say, it's like, okay, is this what you really want? Oh no, this isn't what you really want? Okay, well then now where does that shift to? I mean that, and it's like okay, now we're hitting the fear. It's like, no, but this is really what I want, and boom, you blow through it. Mm-hmm. Right? But it's in order to move through those fears, vision is a crucial component.
Yeah.
Always.
I think, you brought up something like, and I referred to it before, but the whole vision thing, it's the part of it is this great, big, wonderful idea you have in the future and you're going to walk into, and it's going to be this wonderful thing. But part of vision, and I don't think this is talked about enough, but you mentioned it, which is this little flame, this little spark inside of you. That's just as much vision as the big image at the end of the day. And I think that, like, if you have a little light inside of you that's kind of going like, I kind of want to, that's enough. Right? That's enough in your darkest moment. If you can catch a spark, is enough to light a fire. You know what I mean? And so sometimes if all you have is a little spark and you've been, I think you've been feeling beaten down, or you've been scared, or you've been doing something that you haven't loved, and then all you really have to do, in my opinion, and I feel like I can speak from this because I had to do it myself. I had my darkest moments. I was depressed. I was down. I was like, life was just messed up. And I remember just being like, there's a spark in there. I know there's something. And I remember just going, okay, all you got to do is you just got to put something that could ignite this shit. Because there's a spark there. You got to get some fucking like kindling or some paper or something that could give you a little bit more fire, a little more light right now. I know it's dark, but there's something. And then you do a little thing for yourself. This could be the law of the beginning. You do a little thing for yourself. You go, oh, it's a little lit up. And then you throw some more stuff in there, right? Boom. All of a sudden, you're starting to get a flame with this dark period of your life starts to light up. You start to see things. This is vision. When you light up inside, you begin to see. Think about another great analogy, and I can give this from my experience of depression that I went through, was that the world, when you're depressed, seems super dark and bleak, and just seems like hopeless, and you can't see any possibility. It's just like, But the thing is when you light up inside, what all happens all of a sudden is all these things that were once dark, it's like you're in a dark room, and it just gets all lit up, and you're like, oh, well, that's pretty easy. I just got to walk through that door.
Has this always been here?
Exactly. And you like realize that it has always been there. But the thing is now that you're lit up, it's like things that you could never see before all of a sudden become visible. And so vision is just as much the light inside of you as much as it is the great thing that you see out in the distance. And I believe the more lit up inside you are, the greater a distance you believe you can see. Because part of vision too is believing something's out there in the darkness even though you can't see it. And that's like where faith comes in, the law of faith. And that's where things come in, where the law of the unknown, where you can't see it, you're not that bright yet, and no one ever could be, but you could see it for some reason. It's like a lighthouse way out there, and no one else can see it, but you're like, I know that lighthouse is there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're just like, you know it's out there. But at the same time, you're crazy enough to go out and find out.
and staying connected to that vision, because it is a process,
right?
You know, it's that it's there's really a lot of little tiny decisions and choices that are happening along the way. And you already kind of mentioned it here, because like, one of my big things is really, and whether you want to fully believe me or not in this regard, this is something that I've just, for myself, accepted. I'm like, no, this is actually the truth, because I'd heard it from lots of people before, but I've really, the more I've lived, the more I've understood this to be true. Everything is a decision between fear and love. And vision depends very much in the following through with it. And I guess this is maybe something that goes into our law of momentum, but part of that is asking ourselves that question when shit starts getting a little bit real for us, you know, and we're in fight or flight, or, you know, we're thinking of just jumping ship. And we go, it's like, okay, so what's determining this decision? You know, what's happening here? What's going on with what's happening in my head? Is what's going on in my mind, is this fear or is this love? And what's happening there? And it's staying in that decision of choosing our love, choosing our passion, choosing our, however you want to look at it, if love is too hippy-dippy for you. It has a particular feeling to it. Our vision has a particular feeling to it. So the little decisions along the way need to be in line with that feeling that we get from our vision. And when they're not, then it's usually a signal that we just need to dismiss that thought. We need to dismiss that idea. We need to go on this direction. Because this direction, yes, while it might make me uncomfortable, it is the one that leads me in that direction. Yeah.
You know, to take this idea further, you're always making a decision between love and fear. And I said earlier, you know, it's good to have a healthy dose of fear. You know, one of the ways that I deal with fear, and I mean, I'm learning how to navigate this thing a little bit, you know, all the time. But one of my little things that I always ask myself is, like, could this kill me or could it hurt anybody? And a lot of the time it can't. It just couldn't. It's just like, no way. And then the thing is, like, okay, well, I wouldn't hurt anybody else. That's important to me. I'm not going to kill myself. Okay, well, what am I so worried about here? What's the downside? And then a lot of the time the fear just kind of dissipates, because, you know, the ego can come in and you can kind of identify the fact it's like, oh, this is a silly little issue. Whatever, I'm going to go do it. But I think when it comes down to, like, when you actually look at something and it could kill you, you know, when you look at something that's, like, actually quite a risk, or it could leave you in a place which, you know, you feel would be really horrible or whatever, you kind of look at it, in my opinion, and you go this way. You go, okay, what matters more? What's the next question? Is like, what matters more? Am I willing to die for this? Am I willing to face that in the desire to go for this? Because the thing is, if you are willing to face the thing, it no longer becomes fearful. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Classic.
Awesome book. And in the book, he points out, after interviewing like countless number of people, well, I think it's a lot, but anyway, it's a bunch of wealthy people, blah, 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 whatever. But he found out that everybody kind of thinks the same way when they build wealth or build anything great. And the thing is, they have these visions, right? But he pointed out that the person who is more certain will usually get what they want. And so certainty is this thing where it's like, if it's like a warrior thing. It's like, look, if I'm not scared to die, and you are, chances of me winning are much greater. Because the thing is I'll be willing to take the risks. I might be willing to take the risky things. I might be willing to do things that you're not willing to do. But the thing is because I'm willing to do that, it gives me that upper edge. It gives me that ability to go that extra mile, to do that extra thing. And the thing is like, I think about like some of these wild fucking things like Braveheart and stuff like that. And these, the Scottish people that went and rose against the English and all of that, and like how they went and did this. And I thought, people believed so much in their freedom, so much in that they were willing, because they were like, I would rather die than deal with this. And that's where values start to override fear. And I think that's where love actually comes in. And I think it's like this weird thing, because it's like part of it is like you got to deal with fear, but it most of the time today we don't have real fears. We're not going to die, like no one's going to hurt anybody, it's all good. But sometimes, every once in a while, we actually do have a fear that we have to overcome. And I believe the way to deal with that is to find more love in your values than you have fear in your pants.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that love is so rooted into our sense of what we want to create and in what our sense of purpose is. Like when we have that, because I think that gives us a sense of personal stake and love in the world and direction. And it can help keep us stay in this thing, even when there's doubts flying in your face. The doubts are coming, but then it's just like, yeah, but no, I just know that this is the way to go. I just know I've just got to push through this. I just know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm going to push further, just be and yeah, it's like all of these people in Napoleon Hill's book. It's this deep sense of knowing this and just being convinced, that you're going in the right direction. It helps you to avoid being pushed around, and also being pushed around by other people's visions too. Because sometimes you don't even know what you're dealing with when other people are putting their shit onto you. It's like that's a whole can of worms. It's enough of a process for us just to try and understand our own inner workings of what's happening in our own minds and motivations. Yeah. Let alone then taking somebody else's on. Like, it's not even really a path worth going down.
To go back to this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he pointed out that like the person who's more certain will usually rise and usually get it, right? The thing is that everybody is selling everybody on something all the time. Everybody's selling each other on a vision all the time. And we haven't really touched on this yet, and I think we should take a moment to touch on how we adopt other people's visions and we agree to join them or not, and also the how-to of vision. Those are a couple of things I just want to make sure we cover. But everyone's always selling their vision all the time. They're telling you, this is how the world works, this is how reality is, this is the way it is,
and this is what you should do with your life. And
so we can accept that or deny it and defy it. And I think that, it's difficult. It's vision is a very challenging thing to negotiate in life, because there's this childhood. I want to be, this great thing. And then parents and teachers and people come in and say, well, like, at first they say, yeah, be anything you want. And then they start saying like, well, let's deal with reality. You know what I mean? At least that's our current culture. And in some ways, what they're helping you do is they're looking at the how-to. But here's my problem with the education system. I think the education system looks at vision backwards. And I said this to you before, but like the education system goes how to do something, and then if you figure out how to do it, then you can have a vision for it, which is actually the opposite to reality. But we believe that's reality.
Yeah.
Let me explain. You have a vision. This is how reality actually works. And people might think I'm crazy, but honestly, look throughout history. Look at Steve Jobs, okay?
Yeah.
Look at anybody.
Look at any great visionary in history.
Exactly. They had a vision, and then they figured out how to make that vision happen.
Yeah.
But people, and the common person, the common man, woman, is that we learned backwards. You learn how to do it, and then based on figuring out how to do it, then you can have a vision. And which keeps our vision obviously very small, because the thing is like, if you have a great vision that's no one's ever done before, no one knows how to do it, so then how do you have a vision? It's a catch-22. Yeah. So obviously you have to have a vision before you know how to do it. It's obvious. Yeah. But the thing is that we're educated backwards. And so we have a difficult time sometimes breaking that way of seeing it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
absolutely. This reminds me. It was a talk I saw from I think the chief editor of Wired magazine, and he did. It was I think it was on Big Think or something. He talked about this, and he said, and he was making out the case for being, being like an optimist, and why you should be an optimist. And I think this ties in so much with being a person with vision, and being a person, because that's also a person who is a person who believes in possibility. And the point that he was making is like, our world has been, despite some of the shit that goes on, our world is still defined by the optimists. Our world is still defined by the people who see possibility, and the people who are creating new things, the people who are, and it's true. Our world is, the progress of our world is defined by the visionaries, by the dreamers, and the people who dare to do it. And that's not to say that some of these people paid the ultimate price. As far as we understand, they paid the ultimate price for their vision. But the ripples that they created are something that most people will never touch upon. They've so dramatically, the greatest visionaries have so dramatically impacted the way that we do things in life, the way that we think about life, the way that we think about each other. It's extraordinary. And it's not to say, it's not putting that pressure that you have to be that kind of person, but this is just to illustrate the profound effect of vision. You don't have to be a Martin Luther King to have vision and to create extraordinary effects in the world. You don't have to be that, but you do have to have a vision. You do have to have one. Yeah. And incredible things can happen when you do that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the other thing too with vision, a couple things. One is that your vision doesn't have to be this, like, you need to be this person that changes the whole world. Yeah. Your vision could be a very simple thing. The thing is here's my point, is vision is important to the point that you choose it, that it's not something that you felt you were given by someone else and that you had to have it and that it's your lot in life. that your vision, you can see yourself outside of whatever the world has told you're supposed to be. You grow up in, East LA or Compton or something like that. You feel like you're a gangster. That's not your lot in life. That is your position. But do you see yourself outside of that? Can you leave that? I think about the people in like Flint, Michigan, who are getting, intoxicated by their water, right? Mm-hmm. And you go, leave the place. What's stopping you from leaving? You know what? It's not good. It's not healthy. It is like a toxic place. Whatever your fear is about, I won't find a job, I won't do this, leave. You know what I mean? Vision sometimes is getting you out of a dangerous place that is not good for you. It's not always about being Steve Jobs and changing technology for the rest of the world. Sometimes it's about finding the little things in life that matter to you and not being stuck where the fuck you think you are. You know what I mean? And I really am on this right now because it's so timely. But the whole thing about my bloodline, the whole cook thing is like, obviously, you're not just a cook today, but come on, we kind of are. You're kind of like you're born into a family that does mechanics or trucker or whatever the thing. My dad was a logger when he grew up. And, he didn't want to be a logger, so he went out and he tried to do something else. He went into real estate. He tried to push himself outside of it. He went as far as he could. I'd look at it and go, okay, you don't have to deal with your lot in life. If you like your lot in life, love it. Great. No problem. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you find your lot in life and you don't like it, you're not stuck there. And vision can take you out of it. And that's my point about it. And then when it comes to the how-to, don't worry about how to. Decide what you want. You will figure out how to do it afterwards. If you wait in the how do I do this and then I'll figure out what I want, you will be stuck where you are forever. And that's the one promise I can have for you. Vision is don't worry about how to do it. Decide what you want and then go look for how to do it. Go figure that out. You will figure that out. But the thing is if we never allow ourselves that, we're stuck.
Yeah.
And that's what
you have to. Yeah, that's huge. It's allowing ourselves to go there. It's allowing ourselves to let these visions kind of come out of us.
Yeah,
and to accept them, to embrace them, to let them unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, we're going to share more laws in this podcast. We're going to talk about more things. We talked about the law of beginning. We're going to talk about the law of simplicity. We're going to talk about the law of the unknown. We're going to talk about this stuff. This is going to give you the tools to get out of whatever shitty situation you might find yourself in, and at the same time give you the tools to take yourself from wherever you are, even if your life's great, and make it better. That's what we're trying to do.
And as far as what we try to do, kind of throwing back to your statement on everyone's trying to sell you something.
That's our aim.
Solution.
It's not a solution.
It's not a solution. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Is we're not trying to sell a solution. We're just trying to throw some ideas out there that for you to interpret for yourself and see what implications those could have.
Yeah.
And because ultimately, this is claim your own path. That's our motto around here on Way of the Artist. Claim your own path. It's not our path.
No.
We want you to have yours though. And we really want you to have yours.
Yeah. And I think, to further what I was trying to say there, I thank you for clarifying that, is that our mission is that people are living authentically and truthfully to themselves, and I think that if I think that you will find through this some things that maybe call out to you as far as what's true for you, and you'll do what you'll do with it. But sometimes you just need someone to say, you're not stuck. There is an option, and maybe look at it this way. And then do what you want to do. Turn this podcast off, do nothing. Fine. No problem. Or if something landed with you, act on it. Start a beginning. Do something. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is I just look at it and I go, if you're listening to this point and you're hearing this stuff, I think of it all the time this way, Evan. I always think, this is me at 17 is listening on the other end of this. And this is what I would tell myself. I would say, trust that vision. You are not stuck where you are. Believe in it. Go for it. You know, I was already doing that in a certain way, but to have someone tell me that I could, to tell me that it was important to do, to just reaffirm those thoughts would have been so valuable to me. And so when I say that I'm speaking out into the ether of that young man that I was at that time, who just felt alone and felt like he was off dreaming all on his own, trying to have a vision all on his own. And I believe there's people out there. And when I speak, that's where my message comes from, you know. Regardless of what the podcast comes from, I have this angst in my heart. I don't know how to explain it. Just like I imagine these young kids who have they're graduating and they're like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. And I'm just like, keep dreaming. God damn it. Keep dreaming.
Stop living somebody else's life. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or, you know, do whatever you want to do, but just do whatever's in your heart, you know, whatever it is. And there's no problem with going and saying like, I'm going to have this secure job and do that. Great. That's awesome. But don't do it because you're stuck. Do it because that's what you want to do, you know? And I feel like vision is you saying, this is what I want in life. And this helps me get what I want in life. And if it helps you get what you want in life, then by all means, 100% do it.
Yeah. And sometimes following your vision, you'll fall flat on your face. And that's okay too. It's okay to fall. It's more than okay to fall flat on you. Exactly.
Yeah, you'll get back up.
Shall we?
Let's talk about the beer.
Talk about this beer here and wrap this bad boy up.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
You got this, baby. So let's know.
So this one, this brew that we've been drinking over the course of this podcast is from Steamworks Brewing, one of the oldest craft brewers here in town. This is their Heroica Red Ale, 5.6%. Again, we are not sponsored by them at all. We're just throwing some props to people who make beer.
Yeah.
Because,
they spur on the conversation. It's a tradition for us.
Yes, a time-honored tradition.
I like this one, man. This is a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I like their name, too. Okay, well, let's wrap this baby up. We've covered a lot.
We have covered a lot in this one. More than I thought we were going to cover, to be honest with you. But, there you go.
Okay, this is what I'm going to say. I mean, I'll just say, listen, with vision, it's a choice. You either deciding the vision in your mind that you're walking into, or you're being sold a vision that you think you're supposed to have, in my opinion. But you're always going to have a vision, and sometimes it's bleak if that's what you allow to infect your mind, or it's something that is of your creation. And you can create whatever you want. You don't. No one is ever going to look down on you if you have a vision that's not like changing the world. It's irrelevant. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks about when it comes to vision. It's really a feeling that you have and what you want, in my opinion. And you just being honest about that and being willing to kind of go venture out and do that and maybe overcome a little fear and find a little more love as you go about this journey. And I feel like the last thing I'll say is I just want to remind people, vision is not just an image you have at the end of the day. It's a feeling and a fire you have inside of yourself that lights the way. And to keep that in mind, because you don't need to always know exactly what the end result will look like. Sometimes all you need to do is feel like I'm lighting up where I know I need to go right now. And I believe there's something out there. I don't even know what it is, but I'm going to light it up and I'm going to go towards it. And, you know, if you're doing that, in my opinion, you're winning in life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nice. All I want to leave this with is, I'm just going to bring this back around is again, everything begins with a vision. Anything worthwhile begins with a vision. That's truth. That is truth. Accept it or not at this point. And actually what I wanted to do was just take everybody through just a very quick exercise. Maybe you're going to be resistant to it. Maybe not. So I want everybody to do right now is wherever you are, standing, sitting, whatever, just close your eyes, take a deep breath.
If you're driving, maybe pull over.
Yeah. Or do this later in a place where it's a bit more of a calm, relaxed environment. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and I want you to think about this vision that you have. I want you to think about this person that you want to be, or this thing that you want to create. And now I want you to imagine yourself in a year from now as a result of it. I want you to picture yourself having pursued that vision. Where are you standing a year from now? What's the place? What are you wearing? Who is with you? What is going on around you? I want you to feel that. Feel that in your body. Let that really, really sink in. Sink that in until it becomes a living reality in your body. And when it's real for you, I want you to ask yourself, is this possible or is this probable? And when you get it to the point where you can say, this is probable, then say out loud to yourself, so be it.
So be it.
So be it. That is an exercise I learned from my amazing wife, Kat Schulte, who I believe she learned it from Bill Hicks. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a profound exercise for me when I first did it. So I just wanted to share that. That's it for me, man.
Take it easy and keep tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you got something out of this, if you feel it improved your life or your journey in any way, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share the episode.
You can also support us on Patreon, where we have tons of great bonuses. You are the ones that make the show possible and help us to thrive. Thank you for joining us.